Hello and welcome to a Friday edition of the Niall Fraser Show. Oh, lots and lots to come up tonight. What's happening tonight? We've got Warfare 3.0, exploding pagers, walkie-talkies. What else can they hack? Keir Starmer continues on the road to ruin with revelations of freebies and donations marring Labour. And last but not least, the Scottish Screams proving themselves cheap and sleazy in a cash for access scandal and a £700 a shot. But first, the best part of the show, the intro music. Welcome and thank you all for tuning in on this glorious Friday night, the 20th of September, the year 2024. Oh, and what a show we've got lined up today. But before we get into the segments, what I wanted to do was a sort of a recap, a reflection of the George Square rally that happened just a little under 2 weeks ago. Yesterday, tomorrow would be 2 weeks to the day. But effectively, what happened in George Square was we managed to have a rally against illegal mass immigration. And of course, the whole weight of the Scottish government was brought down upon us. The whole weight of the Scottish government and even even with the weight of the whole Scottish Government upon us, effortless. It was a perfect event. No major incidents took place. We were allowed to speak. We were allowed to get our point across. The police performed exceptionally. And overall, I think it was a victory for us against the Scottish Government. So it's Niall Fraser 1, Scottish Government 0. Right, so I mean, the whole lead up to the George Square rally, I mean, that was the battle itself. I mean, the Battle of George Square wasn't actually, it didn't take place in George Square. It took place online. It was the lead up to the George Square rally that was the actual battle, the online battlefield, as it were. I mean, this is a huge, very surprising to me as well. This demonization that came months prior to the actual event. It was the first time that people had been asking me if I was going to this far right rally, and of course I was saying yes. But it was people who, they're normally not engaged in politics. They're normally they don't follow politics as much. But of course, in the lead up to this, it was all over Clyde One. It was all over STV. It was all over everything. And this is where the weight was. The weight of the Scottish Government and their minions in the media, really making it a difficult rally to attend. I mean, the demonisation started months and months in advance, and it was nae Nazis allowed. Nae Nazis in Glasgow. Say no to Nazis, they say. Say no to the far right fascists and the Nazis. So, straight off, they want to put you on the back foot immediately. Immediately, you're on the back foot. And, you know, you don't, in a situation like that, I don't think it's right to come out and sort of defend yourself off the bat. You know, oh, we're not Nazis. Oh, no, we're not. Just go and do whatever you're going to do and let the chips fall where they will. So, I mean, this is, I'm looking at my notes here. I've got Susan Aitken. Susan Aitken, taking her time off from ringing the bells in Notre Dame to descend upon us and pontificate to the plebs. Pontificate to the plebs that, you know, actually, these very normal views, these very normal concerns that you have, the plebs, about immigration, the mass immigration, and the ramifications therein, that actually these are not normal views. These are not common sense views. And actually, these are unacceptable views, and they're not welcome in Glasgow. That's what Susan Aitken said. She even went as far as to brand the whole event as race hate ideology, which I'm saying to myself, how is this even possibly? How can a person in a position of power like that be, one, so wrong? But I mean, obviously, she's wrong all the time. But how can she get away with saying things like this? How can she get away with saying things like this? Anyway, guys, 120 odd listeners now, watchers rather. Do me a favour, share the broadcast, get the comments in early, and you know, I generally read through every comment. If it's a good comment, we'll put it on screen. But first, let's see what Susan Aitken's got to say. Let's see what she had to say about our rally.
People who are attending that far-right demonstration, I'd say unequivocally, your ideology is not welcome in Glasgow. We reject your far-right ideology and your race hate. Then I'll be heading to the Stand Up to Racism rally and joining my voice to those of the vast majority of Glaswegians who want to stand in solidarity with our fellow Muslim Glaswegians, with refugees and asylum seekers who for many years years have been integrated into being a part of our communities here in Glasgow. That is the Glasgow that we believe in. That is the Glasgow that we see and live in every single day. And to those going along to join Stand Up for Racism, please do so. Please do so peacefully, and let tomorrow be a joyful celebration of this fantastic, diverse, multicultural city, and an unequivocal rejection of the ideology of the far right and of race hate. It is not welcome in Glasgow, and people who want to bring that ideology to Glasgow are not welcome here.
See, just listening to it, Aitken should be in jail. Absolutely, Thomas Ingham. She should be in jail for a life sentence. Crimes against Glasgow, Thomas. What do you think about that? Crimes against Glasgow. But also, just, I mean, this, it's like governance by slogan. That's what Susan Aitken's gotten by on. It's governance by slogan. It's Glasgow is a diverse, multicultural society. It's a multicultural city. Diverse. It's inclusive. Governance by slogan. None of these things actually, I mean, see, individually, nobody knows what she's actually talking about. Nobody knows what she's talking about. And for her to join, no, just to unilaterally brand our event as far right, as fascist, as race hate ideology. If anybody is a lawyer in the chat watching the news, get in touch, because I believe there is a lawsuit in this statement here. Brandon, people like myself, people, good people like Craig Houston, Alistair, Johnny McGinty, the speakers that day, the speakers that they're no fascists, they're no racists, they're no, they don't, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't ascribe to race hate ideology. And yet we're branded as this. This is clean cut, stirring up hatred against us. And the similar thing happened with Hamza Yusuf. Hamza Yusuf does the exact same thing. So let's look at what he said. So look at I mean, on the surface, this picture looks pretty bad for us. Pretty bad for us. Look, but even, I mean, in reality, this, anything behind that banner in the middle there, anything behind that banner is government affiliated. We've got Stand Up to Racism Scotland, who, you know, I mean, they'll be getting funding for the Scottish government. All these other organisations and trade unions that were present there were, you know, coaxed, prodded, and pushed into attending this, just to sort of bring parity. But again, I'll take an outnumbered group any day. And this is the thing, they want to make it all about numbers. Oh, look at us. Oh, look at you. You're outnumbered. As if we care about that. As if we care that we're outnumbered. We don't care. You know, we'll take a few good men any day. But again, this is look, kudos to Stand Up Racism and all those involved in opposing hatred in our country. Nay, Passaran. And I'm like, what is this Passaran stuff? What is this nay Passaran? And I actually had to look it up to find the meaning of it. And it's you shall not pass, as if he's Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, stopping the Balrog, getting to the fellowship, as if he's the good guy. These guys, him, Susan Aitken, John Swinney, these are, you know, they're like caricatures of villains. These are, they're like, they are actually the villains in our country, and yet they come out and they say things like this, as if, you know, oh, my virtue signaling points of, oh, it needs a wee bit of a pump. You know, I'm going to go and say something about the farm. When in actuality, this is more of a a true reflection of the numbers that day, when we were absolutely packed. And all the protests that I've done and spoken at, that was easily the biggest crowd that I've done. Maybe it's a trick of the eye, because I was sort of on a wee raised platform, and I'm looking at the other crowd as well as the crowd right in front of me. So it maybe be a trick of the eye, an optical illusion, so to speak. But I thought it was the biggest crowd that I've ever done. And I've done many protests by this point. And fair play to Police Scotland. If anyone won the day that day, it was Police Scotland. So, I mean, there was a lot of things that could have happened. That could have been. So, I mean, I'm just going to go into exactly what happened. So, me and my partner, Megan, were travelling. So, we've come out of Queen Street. And we've walked along there, undisturbed, undeterred, all the way round to this, our side. So, we've come from the opposite side, round Dame, and then into there. And then we've left in that direction as well. And we weren't followed, we weren't harassed. We got a few handshakes on the way to our destination through Buchanan Galleries, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, nobody, I mean, my priority that day was to get into Glasgow, get into George Square, say our bit and get out safely, because we'd have all these threats. This is the thing. See Humza Yousaf's rhetoric here. This has pushed people to threaten us with petrol bombs, to threaten us with violent attacks, stabbings, whatever it is. This type of tweet has done this. This video, but by Susan Aitken, has done this. They don't know who I am. They don't know who Craig Houston is. They don't know who Alistair McCall. They don't know who we are, and yet they can just ascribe this race hate ideology to us, just like a pin the tail on the donkey. No, we are not. We don't accept that. We don't accept that. But again, we won the day. We won the day because clips like this showed, laid bare just how disgustingly sectarian, just how divisive their side actually is. And before I'd even, I mean, I didn't know who this woman was prior to her being at this rally. I had no idea. Mark Zegville with a comment: there should never have been a counter protest allowed in the same day at the same place. I'm not sure if you can just disallow counter protests, but this is the thing. It's been pushed, it's been pumped months prior. They've pushed a counter protest months prior, and they've invited all these unions. They've pushed their members. They've got all their NGOs, all the charities that they control, and they've pushed them there to that day. And for the life of me, it didn't even work. It didn't even work. So it just shows you how feeble the Scottish government actually is. Because this, again, the side closest to us, closest to the bottom, this represents the silent majority. The silent majority that are saying, hold on a minute, stop the boats. Hold on. We can't have tens of thousands, millions of people arrive on our shores and expect society to be the same. It's impossible. It's the rate at which immigrants are coming, illegal immigrants, asylum seekers, so-called asylum seekers, asylum frauds. The rate at which they're coming, it makes it simply impossible for integration. If this is what the goal is, if the goal is pure and unfettered integration, then it's never going to work, because it's the volume at which they're coming is just, it's too much. It's too much to do. So you'll see the wee timestamp up there, 25 minutes past 1. So we were like 20 minutes into our demonstration there. Mark Zegville again. In London, it would never be allowed. It's a police nightmare to allow 2 counter protests. And the thing is, just look at the sheer expense. Just look at the sheer expense that the police have had to go to. They have spared no expense that day. There was teams of horses all behind the trees, all on the left-hand side and right-hand side. There was horses right coming out Queen Street. Again, I'll say it again, Police Scotland won the day. And they had this sort of weird spectacle with the Green Brigade. The Green Brigade, the Celtic Ultras. Oh no. Oh, the boogeymen. Oh, the Celtic Ultras. Oh no. Oh no. Who would be scared of these guys? They're like miniature anti-fascists. And they've purposely come up one street, right along by the Piper Bar. I don't know what the name of the street is, but they've purposely come up one street to come up to our side of the demonstration. They didn't try and join the other side. If they wanted to do that peacefully, they could have went around another street. But they didn't do that, did they? They came up one side of this, one street, specifically one street, looking for a confrontation. And it wouldn't have been a confrontation they would have won either. They were lucky they got killed. This is the thing. The Celtic Ultras, the Green Brigade, they were lucky to be killed that day. I mean, I do appreciate the police doing it. It's for their safety. And I mean, it was effectively for their safety, right? But what's happened is they've made it all a big thing. Oh, they're kettling our anti-fascists. It's just ridiculous. It's just sheer ridiculous. The police acted so swiftly in doing that. And there's a couple scenarios that could have happened there. I was half expecting us to show up in George Square and not be able to speak, because you've had all this anger festering and aimed at us, that I half expected loads of infiltrators, people to throw milkshakes, people to perhaps be violent, to attack some of us, people to have occupied our side of the square prior to us arriving. I mean, there was so many things that could have happened, but didn't. And the Police Scotland played a blinder, because if you think about it, I mean, what dismal show of Scottishness would it have been if we were to have a rally in George Square, in the centre of one of our biggest cities, and not be able to speak? That would have been the headline. Police Scotland unable to allow a demonstration. And that would have been more, I think, for the Scottish Government, that would have been more damaging than us just being there. But this picture alone speaks 1,000 words. I mean, on the top half of the picture, you've got the whole weight of the Scottish Government, and it's just littered with Palestinian flags. I mean, this is the whole weight of the Scottish Government, and it feels like the whole weight of the Iranian government as well. What is actually going on in Scotland? Why is this global conflict being played out on the streets of Glasgow? Why is it being played out in the streets of London? Why are people in seeking political power, in positions of political power, seeking to use a global event in order to get elected locally? You'll have councillors all over Scotland, that'll be, campaigning on Palestine. And you're like, what is actually going on? People just want their bins collected. People want their council tax reduced. People want their standard of living to at least go up, or at least not get worse. Long Rob, the Green Brigade are ignorant muppets. Ireland is being invaded too. The Irish people are sick of it too. And this is the thing, Long. It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable that we've got the exact same thing happen to Ireland. That, I'm seeing huge, big mass demonstrations across Ireland yesterday, the day before, against mass immigration. And yet we've got the Celtic Ultras, the Green Brigade, that are purporting to be Irish descendants, and yet they don't even know what the sentiment is in Ireland. And this is the thing, they'll say, oh no, Ireland, it's got this whole big history of immigration. You know, we arrived in Scotland and it created sectarianism. You know, you know, the Protestants just hate Catholics. It's the immigration. You know, Ireland is like sort of inextricably tied to immigration somehow. And yet, it's a massive difference when you've got Irish immigrants coming from Ireland, landing in Scotland with just they're basically the exact same as us, but they've got a different sect of Christianity. So there's so much commonality between us, and yet the only thing is that it's just a different sect of Christianity, Protestantism versus Catholicism, and I mean, you think about that level of immigration, it was pretty big, right? But I mean, that's so very common. You know, so many common things between us as a people. I mean, we're both white. We both are prescribed to Christianity, and yet they want to make this insane ideological leap. This is exactly the same. It's allowing untold amounts of Africans, Southern Africans into our country. They're trying to say that that's the exact same, when it isn't. The cultures are totally different. They're so far away. There is no, I mean, if you think about Irish Catholics and Scottish Protestants, there's no much in it. There's no much in it. But then if you look at just huge amounts of Africans arriving in Scotland and Ireland, for that matter, the difference is massive. The culture shock is massive. Just everything is different, and it's actually bringing a new version of sectarian violence to these countries. It's a new version of sectarianism. It's no longer Catholic Protestant sectarianism. It's Islamic versus Christianity. You know, it's Islamic Christian sectarianism, and it's just been modified. That's what it is. The Celts of Scotland. Oh, sorry, I'll bring that comment back up. Sorry, Rob. The Celts of Scotland, Ireland, and Wales have a common history. That's exactly what I'm saying. And yet we've got nothing in common with places in Southern Africa. And I mean, we've got this insane thing that's happening in America, where Trump is having a presidential debate, and he's saying, these Haitians, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. That's how different our cultures are. In Haiti, it's what is it? The largest religion is like voodoo. They're out sacrificing animals, and yet let's bring untold amounts of Haitians to the country. That'll be fine. This search for the multiculturalism just to work is it's a fool's errand, I'm afraid. It really is. And it would take years and years and years to integrate. And, you know, my good friend Richard Lucas made a point as well. This whole thing, these immigrants from Ireland landed like 200 years ago, 150 years ago. And there's still bother. There's still sectarianism. So we have to look at the long-term ramifications of this mass migrants arriving on our shores. Nobody wants to look 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years in the future. Nobody wants to do that, because actually, if you do that, it looks utterly bleak in the direction of travel we are at the moment. Let's get Mark's headphones. The media portrayed you guys as far-right thugs, yet wouldn't say what was said in the speeches exactly, which were not far-right at all. Shows you what we're up against. That's what we're up against. The media and the government. I mean, the media and the government are like that, Mark. Especially in Scotland. Especially in Scotland. They work hand in hand. And this is, I think we're getting closer to just exactly what's going on in Scotland. But there's a few other things. I mean, we won that battle. The Battle of George Square was won by us. We'll go through some of the wee pictures. Here's the speakers of the day. So we had Johnny McGinty with a white t-shirt in the middle. We had Craig Houston, of course, on the right-hand side. Alistair McConney, left middle, and myself on the left. The thing is, it's very hard to get people to turn up at a rally when you're going to be branded a Nazi, a far-right thug, a fascist, even though you know in your heart of hearts that you're not, you're never what these labels are. You're never like this, that you're a good person, that you only want what's best for Scotland. It takes true courage to just go and arrive and do this. No, it's like know thyself. I mean, see if you were to read all the papers about me, you'd think I was the worst person on the planet, when it simply is not the case. Here's sort of get the crowd as it was getting bigger and bigger, taking from behind the wee line, and you can just see just a huge amount of Palestinian flags. Again, Richard Lucas said in his video as well, if you were an alien to land in George Square that day, your summation would be that it was some sort of conflict between Palestinians and British people. That's the view. That's what it would seem from an outside perspective looking in. Here's yours truly having a wee speech. And there we go, asylum frauds out, loads of police. And there's probably my favourite picture. I'm being a bit biased because I'm in it. But this is, it was a fantastic event, even though it was just marred by like problem after problem, after people pulling out, after more problems. And of course, we've got the whole weight of the Scottish Government just condemning it as far-right bigotry, as race hate ideology, according to Susan Aitken. The whole thing was just bananas. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with any of the speeches that were made that day. You can go and find them on YouTube. Here's Mark. We have a comment. We need immigration, but it needs to be controlled. They need to adapt to our culture and laws, contribute to society. What we are seeing at the moment is uncontrolled, who are pushing our infrastructure to the limit. And unless, of course, the thing is, adapt to our culture and laws. That it doesn't seem to be any adaptation to our culture or any adaptation to our laws at all, especially when you look at the extreme version of Islam that's sort of been festered in the UK, which is Sharia law. And they just will not adapt to our culture at all. And in fact, they want to impose their culture on us, having moved here. And you know, talk about pushing infrastructure to the limit. Couldn't have said it better to myself. It's pushing it to the utmost. It's pushing it to breaking point, Mark. We've got a housing shortage that is only going to continue to get worse. We've got a crime spiraling out of control, and I mean spiraling out of control. We had the insane BBC article today. There's a rape in London reported every hour. Every hour. So by this point tomorrow, there would have been on average 24 reports of rape in London. It's becoming lawless. Sadiq Khan has lost London. or he's not lost, he's given it away. This is the thing. Sadiq Khan is not lost London, he's given it away. Hasn't he? Right, let's get this picture away. We're going to move on to our other segment. Get the comments in, folks. Lovely, 200 listeners. Still rookie numbers. We can do better than this. Get it shared, please. Get it up. We've got Bob's Country Monkey. Illegal immigrants are breaking the law, and you have politicians going against those who want the law upheld. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we've got politicians and, you know, these agencies and the media all pushing this open borders, mass immigration policy that will all lead to our destruction. And yet, oh well, they can lie in the sun for a week or two, and then it's all going to affect everyone. Right. So what's our next segment? Right. Oh dear God. Oh dear God. I didn't even want to go into this, but here we are. The new segment, guys. It's Warfare 3.0. Oh, and I don't know if you had this in the 2024 bingo. If you're notching that off, then I commend you. But really, let's look at just what's happening across the globe. I'll just show, I mean, I would have shown you other videos. There are way more videos than this, but this is probably the safest one that I'll show, because the other ones show insane injuries, you know, devastation, bodily devastation. I'll show the first part of that again, and then we'll talk about just what's happening. You didn't want to hear this guy's cries for help and wailing in pain. But what's happened here is somehow, some way, these pagers that Hezbollah operatives have been using to communicate covertly have either been sabotaged before they got to them, or they've been hacked in a way to make them explode. Warfare 3.0, ladies and gentlemen. And it wasn't just these pagers. There was walkie-talkies as well. And, you know, I've been following the news on this, and the BBC are, you know, they're pointing to a company in Taiwan, who the Taiwanese company are pointing to a company in Hungary, and we've got these walkie-talkies that were made in Japan, but they were knockoffs made in you know what. Nobody knows where these things have been bought from. But my question to you is this a hack? Is this a simple hack into an existing pager, an existing walkie-talkie, to make it explode, or have these pagers been manipulated and they've been what am I trying to say? These pagers, prior to arriving at Hezbollah, have been sabotaged as to contain explosives that can then be hacked and exploded remotely. And what a devastating attack it was. The first day, there was 2,800 injuries reported. I think it was 10 deaths. These injuries, most of them happening as the pager was in their pocket. Some people saying there was a delay. They would read the pager, then it would explode. Then we had this walkie-talkie stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share a tab, And we're going to go Hezbollah. Right, so here you are on the screen. Hezbollah device explosions. The unanswered questions. Oh, there's lots of questions to be answered, ladies and gentlemen, by Tom Bennett. After thousands of pagers and radio devices exploded in 2 separate incidents in Lebanon, injuring thousands of people and killing at least 37. Details are still being pieced together as to how such an operation was carried out. Right, guys, get in with the speculation. Get in with the comments. How has this happened? Is it, I mean, to me, it would seem, it would feel, it would seem a bit, I mean, it would be really terrifying if Mossad was able to remotely detonate any device. Don't you think? Don't you think that that ability to just explode a device on demand, don't you think that is absolutely terrifying? And it's a new, it's definitely taken the war in the Middle East and it's added a new dimension to it. And I don't think we're going to see, we're going to see very, very similar things happening in the Ukraine and Russia conflict. Now that sort of Israeli they've broken the wave on this, it feels like this has been an exotic weapon, some sort of exotic new device. I mean, this is failing the fact. What an operation, right? So we've got these 2 opposing ideas, right? Either we've got the Israelis can remotely detonate these pagers without any sabotage whatsoever, right? Without having touched the device, or they've intercepted over like thousands and thousands of these pagers and sabotaged them all systematically with explosives and then remotely detonated them. So, I mean, I think it would be terrifying to think that they can just remotely detonate any device. Here we go. Mark Zegfeld. They were sabotaged a while ago. They were waiting for the right time to explode them. It's not a hack. They were sabotaged to contain explosives. What an operation that was, Mark, though. How long? How long were they waiting to do this? Operation by Mossad, yes. But which way, Bob? Which way was it? Was it, as Mark was saying, they were sabotaged ages ago and just waiting for the perfect time in order to sort of detonate them? But then what's this with the walkie-talkies as well? Have they sabotaged the walkie-talkies as well? Well, it would seem that way. But let's continue the article. Here are the unanswered questions. How were the pagers compromised? Early speculation suggested the pagers could have been targeted by a complex hack that caused them to explode, but that theory was dismissed by experts. Is this a new exotic weapon? We know for a fact that there are new, more fantastical, exotic weapons that both Russia and the Ukraine's not using, the Americans are not using, we ourselves are not using, and the Israeli army are not using. I'm leaning to think that this is a new type of weapon. To cause damage on the scale that they did, it's probable that they were rigged with explosives before they entered Hezbollah's possession, experts say. So in order to accomplish that, you would need to know what you would need to have a man on the inside knowing exactly what devices were going to be used. Then you would add that guy relay the information where the order was going to be, then to sort of intercept the shipment of said devices and then to sabotage them all. It just seems too much. It seems too much of a leap. But maybe I am just naive in the ways of war. Images of the broken remains of the pager show a logo of a small Taiwanese electronics manufacturer, Gold Apollo. BBC visited offices situated in a large business park, blah, blah, blah. Company's founder was shocked, denied the business had anything to do with the operation. Of course they did. Look at the pictures from Lebanon. Told reporters outside his offices they don't have any mark saying made in Taiwan on them. We did not make those pagers. Instead, he pointed to a Hungarian company. Oh, it's not us, it's them. They know the company involved, Mark says. Yes, but is it? I mean, this is I'm leaning towards that this has been that they can explode the batteries. I think it would make sense that they can explode the batteries. Because if you think about it as well, let's look at the death numbers on this. Right? Injuring thousands, but killing 37. Right? If it was explosives planted in these devices, you'd think that they would have had a bigger kill rate. You would think. Instead, if it was a mere battery being overloaded and exploded, lots of injuries would have happened, but not many deaths. And that's what we're seeing. Unless they've purposely went for very, very small explosives. But you'd want, if you are going to the extraordinary lengths to intercept Hezbollah shipments of clandestine communication equipment, that it would then stand to reason that you would put large amounts of explosives in, not just enough to injure people. Anyway, what an incredible turn in the war this has been, and it's this will be terrifying on just a scientific level. This and it's probably it might be both. Small amount of explosives a night by an overpowering battery. It might be both. But just on a scientific level, this seems scary, to say the least. And this will have widespread sorry, I'm just trying to think of the right way to say this. It'll have widespread ramifications in how terrorist cells, how they operate, what equipment they use. It'll terrify people in using any type of device as well. Even cars. If they can remote explode walkie-talkies and pagers, they can remote explode cars. Right, let's continue this. Speculation that pagers could have been targeted by a complex hack made them explode, but it was dismissed by experts. To cause damage on the scale that it did, it's probable they rigged with explosives before they entered Hezbollah's possession, experts say. I mean, I find it very, very strange as well. He said that money transfers from BAC had been very strange and that there had been problems with the payments which had come from the Middle East. Size of devices affected their deadliness. A larger battery size can carry more explosives. Walkie-talkie blasts were larger and so killed more people. Pager blasts were smaller, causing injuries and fewer deaths. Well, I mean, see this infographic. This BBC, the BBC are just amazing. coming up with these infographics, right? But surely it would stand to reason that if these batteries are being exploded, that the walkie-talkies having more batteries inside them would be more of an explosion than just simply one battery, as we're seeing on the infographic. But obviously I understand the case that if they're a bigger device, they can hide more explosives in. I just don't see that version of events being true. I like to think that this has been a remote hack, that they've somehow come up with a way to overload the batteries and make them explode. That's what I think. I don't think it's been intercepted in a way. I think that's too big an operation to have. What did a Hungarian company have to do with it? I mean, they're just pointing fingers all across the world here. Who is really behind BAC Consultancy? The company was in fact a front for Israeli intelligence. So that would make sense. If these guys had the need for walkie-talkies, clandestine communications, there was only one company that could provide such a thing, and it was actually a front for Israeli intelligence, then it would make sense that in the manufacture of these devices, they were then sent to Hezbollah. That would make more sense, Mark. It's not about they're intercepting the devices en route. Newspapers citing three Israeli officials said that the two other shell companies were created to help hide identities of people who were really producing the pagers. BBC has not been able to independently verify these reports, but we do know that Bulgarian authorities now begun investigating another company linked to BAC. Bulgarian broadcaster BTV reported that on Thursday, 1.6 million euros connected to the device attacks in Lebanon passed through Bulgaria and was later sent to Hungary. How were they detonated? Videos show victims reaching into their pockets in the second before the devices detonated, causing chaos in the streets, shops, and homes across the country. Concluded that devices were detonated by electronic messages sent to them. It's incredible. And I think it's a sign of things to come. I'm afraid. A sign of things to come. And we've spent far too much time on this topic. Far too much time. But you get the point of the Warfare 3.0. Exploding pagers, exploding walkie-talkies. What else can be remotely exploded? That's the question. A new and frankly terrifying pun in the war in the Middle East, and a taste of things to come, perhaps not just in the Middle East, but across the world, in particular the Russia and Ukraine conflict. And I don't think we've seen anything yet. New and more exotic methods of destruction will unfortunately be showcased over the next few years. That's just where we are. Rightio, we'll move on to our other topic, which is Starmer. Oh, it's free tier Keir. Free tier Keir. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. What's he done? So before we go into this, I think that generally when a new government comes in, there's a honeymoon period. You know, they're not doing that bad. Give them a chance to settle. Give them a chance to get things right. Well, the honeymoon period for the Labour Party it was non-existent. It was non-existent. The Labour Party have went into Downing Street and immediately just made every wrong decision they could possibly make. Every decision that has come across their desk, it feels like they've purposely made the wrong decision. Unsurprising to see Keir Starmer falling into the classic tropes of a corrupt politician. I mean, tell me this isn't a classic trope. Getting, free stuff, all these free stuff, just given. Oh, we're just a pal doing Keir Starmer a favour. I've just given him a seat at Arsenal's corporate box, just a favour, just a favour. It's made Keir Starmer into a grotesque parody. It's made Labour into a grotesque parody of. This is I mean, you hear me before, you hear me in previous years ago. You're talking about the Uniparty, the machine, I like to call it. This Keir Starmer may as well be Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak may as well be Keir Starmer. In fact, we've had stupid videos of him at the dispatch box, Keir Starmer, as the Prime Minister, referring to Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's just a bizarre spectacle after bizarre spectacle after bizarre spectacle with Keir Starmer. And speaking about bizarre spectacles, he was given about $3,500 for spectacles. You just couldn't write this stuff. I mean, the jokes write themselves. Keir Starmer has become, or maybe always was, an amalgamation of vested interest, none of which are the interests held by the British public. None. Absolutely zero. I mean, Labour have managed to turn everyone against them with unmatched quickness, unparalleled quickness. They've managed, I mean, how to lose friends and alienate people. Keir Starmer should have wrote that book, or he's definitely read it. I've never seen a government's honeymoon period end the instant they walked into Downing Street. Right, so let's delve into the wee article. We're not going to go on too long. We've got Keir Starmer, we've got another segment. I maybe have overshot one of the segments, but we'll go on until we go on. Right. Let's read the article. Starmer defends corporate seats at Arsenal games. Oh, of course he defends it. Keir Starmer has defended his decision to accept corporate hospitality from Arsenal Football Club, arguing he can no longer use his normal seats as Prime Minister, which is utter bollocks. See, if you were the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, I would expect to be able to go to a football game and walk through the turnstiles like everyone else. Know this guy. You're supposed to be the leader of a nation, but he can no longer use his seats as normal as Prime Minister. What a crock of shit. He should be able to walk through the turnstiles like everybody else, like every other man and woman, to watch the game. And the fact that he thinks that he's above that is just it's a sign of things to come. Premier League Cup has made 2 seats available to Sir Keir, season ticket in the corporate area of the Emirates Stadium. In interviews with the BBC regional political editors, he said that it had been advised it would cost the taxpayer too much in security to use his normal seat. It's just that there's a semblance of truth in there, but it's bollocks, isn't it? He added that he would rather be in the stands, but that accepting a corporate ticket was perfectly sensible arrangement. If he'd rather be in the stands, if he would rather be in the stands, then as First Minister, I keep saying First Minister, I'm stuck in Scotland, the Prime Minister. If he was the Prime Minister and he would rather be in the stands, he'd be in the stands. But he'd rather not be, clearly. It would make better optics if he was in the stands. But he never wanted to be in the stands with the plebs that he hates. It comes amid a recent scrutiny of gifts received by both Prime Minister and his wife Victoria, including clothes gifted to her by a Labour donor. Long-time season ticket holder at Arsenal's Emirates Stadium has been spotted attending both the club's home and away games, but recently at the club's opening match against Wolves last month. Declared thousands of pounds worth of tickets and hospitality for Arsenal matches, but from both the club itself, other clubs, the Premier League and commercial companies since becoming Labour leader in 2020. Blah, 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 the guy likes Arsenal. He did not confirm whether this would be in a corporate box. Let's just look at the gifts. Let's look at the gifts. Where do we have more gifts? Prime Minister faced criticism for missing a deadline to declare clothes gifted to his wife by Labour donor Lord Wahid Ali, only doing more recently following further advice. You know, I wouldn't have said anything unless somebody had pointed it out. He was also at Lord Ali was also at the centre of a row last month. He'd been given a temporary Downing Street pass. I'll tell you what, Keir, I'll get you, you and your missus all the clothes you want. Just get me a pass to Downing Street. Oh, let's grease the wheels. TV executive, a regular Labour donor, has also bought clothes and glasses for Keir Starmer, according to the Prime Minister's parliamentary declarations. The hospitality gifts is 66,000 over the last year, 20k for the same guy for accommodation, 16.5 grand for clays, and multiple pairs of spectacles, glasses, worth 2.5 grand. And this is the kicker. He also declared 4 tickets worth 4 grand from the Premier League for a Taylor Swift concert. Oh, he's a Swiftie. Oh, he is a Swiftie. And I'll tell you what, he's swiftly being kicked right in the nads. He's swiftly losing all credibility. He's swiftly losing all political capital that is built up over the years. In fact, it's swiftly going. And he's swiftly ruining Labour's chance of getting 10 years at the top job. It's almost over for Labour, I can feel. It's just, they've turned too many people against them. They've turned way too many people against them. Mark Zegfield. What is Mark Zegfield saying? It's a conflict of interest because the government want to legislate on the Premier League when the clubs are against it, and are Arsenal trying to buy influence? Oh, great point. Great point, Mark. The Premier League is billions. Absolutely atom bombs worth. So potentially. But I just see it as just trying to curry favour. Of course it is. Let's see if we've got more of the... I was going to open the... There is a Guardian article as well, but I can't bear to read the Guardian. I'm not... And I know you, the viewer, don't want that as well. You don't want that. The Guardian? Absolutely not. And we've got a video of Keir Starmer defending his gifts. Here we go.
There's a lot of attention on your relationship with Arsenal. Can you clarify what it is?
Yes, very happily. I've had season tickets at Arsenal for a long time now, up in the stands, where I've gone with my boy and my friends for year after year after year. Now I'm Prime Minister. The security advice is that I can't go into the stands. Or if I did, you'd have to put so much sort of security in that it would cost the taxpayer a fortune. As a result, I've been offered tickets elsewhere in the ground where it's more secure. We don't have to use taxpayer money on additional security, and that's why I've taken the decision that I have. I think most people watching this would say, well, fair dues. I think they'd think I was pretty self-centred. if I said, I'd much prefer to be in the stands, by the way. If I said, I'm going in the stands and you, the taxpayer, are going to have to pick up the tab for the security. I'm not really going to do that.
Is it possible for Keir Starmer to waive his security? Is it possible? Can Keir Starmer disregard? Can Keir Starmer disregard his advice by his security and say, no, actually, I'm going to be in the stands. Come hell or high water, I will be in the stands. No. He's been PM since July. How many home games is that? He is talking bull. I mean, this whole fair dues. No, I don't think that flies, Keir Starmer. You know, I just don't. I mean, what level of security are we talking about? Surely the Arsenal fans themselves are Keir Starmer's personal security. If they're all, you know, Arsenal fans, then they're all shoulder to shoulder together. They'll protect them. But no, he wants to be in the corporate box, looking down on the plebs like the rest of them do. That's what it is. And if you ever see me as First Minister, I'll be going to Rangers. I'll be sitting in the stands. I mean, this will be clipped up. I'll see this clip in about 10, 15 years' time or something like that. What an absolute farce this Keir Starmer is. Right, so we've had a wee look at his freebies. Keir Starmer should do what Keir Starmer should do is say, I will not just go to the games. It's a sacrifice for being Prime Minister. Well, that is fair dues, Mark. In fact, I'm not going to bother with any security because we're watching it on the television. We're going to save the taxpayers even more money. We don't need any security watching it on the telly in Downing Street. Fair dues. Fair dues. Right. I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time on Keir Starmer. The guy is just a walking calamity at this point. Can't do anything right. He's starting to look like a used car salesman. He's coming off really bad in interviews. There was the interview yesterday on STV. STV had him in the Downing Street Garden. What are they talking about? They're talking about Grangemouth. And to be fair to the guy, let's see if I can bring him up. Graham. Brian, let's share this tab. Right, let's get this up. Let's get it up. A wee tiny footnote on Keir Starmer before we go. Right. So we had this ridiculous interview in the Downing Street Garden, right? And prior on STV, they're interviewing this guy. Brian Leishman, who is the Labour MP for the Grangemouth area. And he says the Labour government will be letting Scotland down if the Grangemouth refinery shuts. Letting Scotland down. Letting Grangemouth down. And what does Keir Starmer say? He immediately throws this Graham Leishman right under the bus. No, I don't agree with Graham. Oh, I think he didn't even know his name. He didn't even know his own MP's name. It's shocking. And it is letting Scotland down. I agreed with this Brian Leishman in his interview at STV. He was adamant. He was raging that Grangemouth had been shut. Absolutely apoplectic. And yet, he gets thrown right under the bus for standing up for his constituency as a Labour MP. Because all these opportunities are being washed away in this heinous fool's errand, which is net zero. All these jobs are being washed away. All these skills are being washed away. All these future skills are being washed away. All the industry being washed away. And immediately, this Graham Leishman, thrown under the bus. Absolutely thrown under the bus. Right. Anyway, that was the last bit on Keir Starmer. We're almost 350 viewers, guys. Well done. Thanks for having me. We've got one more segment to go, but it's the best one of the night. It's the best one. What's the segment? It's the cheap, sleazy Greens. Oh, you thought the Greens were going to get a pass. Did you think the Greens were really going to get a pass on the Niall Fraser show? Absolutely not. In fact, the Greens, I'm going to go ham on the Greens tonight. They are proving themselves to be the sleaziest, cheesiest, most corrupt party in Scotland. I mean, they're giving the SNP a run for their money. The sheer greediness, the grubbiness of these Green MSPs, it's just truly astounding. It's not a good time to be a Green, ladies and gentlemen. The cheap and sleazy Greens have found a new low. If that was even possible. I hear you saying, how is it possible that they found a new low? How is it possible after corrupting the minds of an entire generation of kids by promoting this sex change lie over and over again, this trans ideology, this lie, this complete fabrication, wanting you to disbelieve your own eyes and your ears. The extremist Greens, the biggest hypocrites in politics. Oh, you're getting ahead of me. You're getting ahead of me, Mark. They're hypocrites. They're hypocrisy incarnate, Mark. They're scumminess incarnate, Mark. The Green Party is corruption in human form. That's what they are. They're walking, talking, scummy, hypocritical, corrupt, bent losers. It's shocking. And just guess, I hear you saying, guess who was at the rally on the 7th in George Square? Oh, wasn't it our good pal, a sleazy Green, Patrick Harvey? Here's his speech.
The people who see the rise of fascism.
Before you watch this, I wonder how much he was paid to attend.
The people who see the rise of fascism and say no. And you'll have heard some people, not just on the fringes of social media, but right throughout mainstream media in this country, you'll have heard people say, you know, the problem is we're just not allowed to have a debate about immigration in this country. What planet have they been living on? Immigration has been debated and debated and debated. The people who are seeking to obsess about immigration have been the dominant voice in so much of our media and so much of our politics in this country, not just for years, but for decades. And government after government after government has created an ever more brutal immigration and asylum system.
Right, okay, Patrick. No need to cry. No need to cry, Patrick. Honestly, he's close to tears in that. And it's not as if he's not entirely wrong. He's not entirely wrong in what he said. Yes, it's been debated. Yes, it's been talked about. Every election, every single election moving up, the immigration sentiment, anti-immigration sentiment is going up and up and up and up and up. The Tories campaigned on stopping the boats. The Tories campaigned on anti-immigration sentiments. And yet they done nothing. In fact, they didn't only do nothing, they made it worse. Every successive party has made immigration worse since Tony Blair, since the Labour Party took power. It went worse, 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 until the point that there's a rape every single hour in London. And the Labour Party, I hear them saying, every hour, let's make it every half an hour. Let's make it every 20 minutes. It's shocking. It's disgusting. And he's not entirely wrong. Aye, it's been debated, Patrick. We're not saying it's not been debated. We're saying it's not been acted upon. We're saying that the will of voters has been willfully disregarded, Patrick. And there's no need to cry. There's no need to cry and stand there. I mean, look at this.
The people who see the rise of fascism.
They get a wee. I mean, this is. They must have expended about £10,000-15,000 on just their own demonstration, right? They've expended so much money on all their events, all their placards, the stage, the PA system. They've went all out on their event against us in the rally, and it was still pitiful, absolutely pitiful. But let's read what the Greens have been up to. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. And it's, let's get the banner up. Cheap, sleazy Greens. Oh, look at this double-page spread. And to be fair to the Daily Record, the first thought that came to mind was, where's then? What does that invoice look like? What does that invoice look like? So what we'll go through the story first, and then I'll speculate as to what an invoice for the Green Party looks like. Oh, exclusive. SNP MSP slams a duo for not practicing what they preach. Oh, I think that's deemed hypocrisy, isn't it? The Scottish Greens are at the centre of a cash for access scandal after offering cosy lunches with government ministers and MSPs for hundreds of pounds. So we'll stop there now. Just put a wee tack in that now. These Scottish government ministers, MSPs, what's an MSP salary off the bat? What's the standard basic? It's like 70 grand, 60 odd grand. Where add the ministerial stuff on the top of that, it's around £100,000. And yet they want to charge 700 quid for meetings with them. Sheer greediness. I mean, what sort of lifestyle do these people lead? That they need more and more and more and more, and that they think they can charge people. Well, not that they can think they can charge people. They did charge people for having meetings. The Sunday Mail can reveal the party was offering meetings with their most senior politicians at conferences for £700 a head. Documents show the practice going on for at least a year and covers the time co-leaders Patrick Harvie and Warner Slater were government ministers in the failed SNP coalition. The Lobbying Scotland Act 2016 states that ministers and MSPs have to abide by strict rules as they have the power to influence government policy and how billions are spent. Do you see the problem here? Do you see the problem here? Former SNP Minister Fergus Ewan has accused the party of rank hypocrisy and rule breaking. The MSP said the Green Party leaders Harvie and Slater have been caught red-handed. They offer access in exchange for cash. A pretty blatant breach of the rules applicable to MSPs. Patrick Harvie and Warner Slater should be given their jotters tomorrow. They should have been given their jotters. When was this printed? This is the 15th. This is 5 days ago, this paper. 5 days ago. But, you know, I always look at the headlines and I pick up the best papers. For you, my loyal listeners. I mean, the papers are getting quite expensive as well, I must say. Pretty blatant breach of the rules applicable to MSPs. I note Mr. Harvie recently slammed the Tories for taking money from businesses. He had been trying to do exactly what he said was outrageous. That makes him Harvie the hypocrite. Oh, Fergus, you know, Fergus Ewan is actually probably one of my favourite politicians in Scotland. I mean, he really is good. I don't care if he's wearing an SNP rosette. He is stellar. And the thing is, he's every time I see him, you know, he's criticising his own party for no doing what they said they're going to do. So you have to start. You have to put. You have to give it to the guy. At the Greens Spring Conference on April 4th, lobbyists were offered the chance to pay for a sponsored lunch in return for an exclusive table to talk to ministers, MSPs and members. The same offering is being made for the party's upcoming conference next month, despite them no longer having any ministers. Lobbying expert Will Dinnan from Stirling University said, "This is a bad look for the Greens." It's a bad look. Also appears to breach the rules in place that governs access to ministers. There's clearly a perception of privileged access created by how this sponsorship is pitched. The Greens appear to have travelled some distance from when they were champions of probity when in opposition in Holyrood. The party, which has 7 MSPs, first offered explicit access to senior figures last October with lobbyists given the chance to buy an exhibitor reception for £700 in exchange for an invitation-only opportunity to talk to MSPs, councillors and observers. Before then, material-only said purchasers would get the chance to network with members, but mention nothing about having FaceTime with ministers or MSPs. So you're getting the point. You're getting the point. I'm not going to read the whole of the Daily Record because I'm just not, because it's a total rag. And Paul Hutchison, the editor, is an absolute loser. So I'm not going to give the paper any more access. What I'm telling you has happened. They've been offered, in fact, they've done one thing right. Daily Record, I'll give you that. They've done one thing right, because the first thing I think is, what does that invoice look like? Sponsored lunch, £700 including VAT. Get an exclusive table to talk to ministers, MSPs and members. What it should say on the invoice is, in fact, get the comments in. What itemised invoice are we looking at here for the Greens? Is it one-on-one access to Patrick Harvey, £350. Greasing the wheels of government, £300. Pointing people in the right direction, £100. What a total joke our country is. Scotland is absolutely broken. It's when you've got such blatant corruption right in your face, right on our doorstep. And this is the speech I made at the rally as well. You know, that whole side, that whole square, I'd come with the notion to have a speech that was supposed to unite everyone in the square. And you just seen how difficult that would have been. I wanted to unite everyone in this square with one speech. What an impossible task. Especially when you've got people like Hamza just lying about us. Hamza, who he wants to talk about hatred and racism. When this guy, he is chief anti-white racist here in Scotland. And yet he's got the temerity to call us racists, to call us thugs, far right, when this guy, he stood up in Holyrood itself and complained that there was too many white people in positions of power. Oh, in a 96, 98% white country. Oh, lo and behold, oh no, oh no, oh no. I'm getting some funny messages about Patrick Harvey. Get the comments in, guys. You know. Anyway, let's talk about the Greens. It's not a good time to be a Green. I've got all my notes up there. It's not a good time to be a Green. The cheap and sleazy Greens have found a new low, if that was even possible. These guys are so low, they're on their stomachs. They're on their stomachs. Bold as brass corruption. I mean, how did they think they were going to get away with it? Will they get away with it? Will we see Patrick Harvey and Lorna Slater given their jars? I doubt it. Because I'm sure that would lead to many other people getting their jars as well. Scumminess incarnate. Hypocrisy incarnate. The Green Party is corruption in human form. Oh, and that is tonight's Niall Fraser show. Thank you so much for watching. 350 listeners, watchers, however you're watching it, thank you so very much. We've covered a lot today. We've covered the Warfare 3.0 with exploding gadgets. We've got Keir Starmer just taking a leaf out of the Greens book and just being the most rank hypocrite it can possibly be. And we've got, of course, just talked about the Scottish Greens and their cash for access, their cash for intimate access to the likes of Patrick Harvey, someone people would pay money to avoid. Anyway, guys, it's been a great show. Thank you ever so much for watching. And of course, we couldn't possibly finish without our outro music. So farewell from me, and I'll see you next week.